There's a certain picture the world tries to paint when it comes to women living alone. It's almost as if society whispers, she must be lonely, she must be incomplete, she must be waiting for someone to show up and fill the silence. But the truth is, independence isn't a punishment, and solitude isn't a sentence. When a woman chooses to live without a boyfriend, without the constant need for someone else to validate her existence, she's not choosing emptiness. She's choosing power. She's choosing clarity. She's choosing freedom. Independence is often misunderstood. People confuse it with isolation, when in reality, it's about building your own life before allowing anyone else to enter it. It's about standing firm on your own 2 feet, knowing that you don't need someone else to complete you, because you were never half of anything in the first place. You were whole from the very beginning. Living alone doesn't mean being unloved. It means being brave enough to love yourself first, and that is one of the strongest foundations a person can ever stand on. Think about it. When you are independent, you make decisions without compromise. You create a space that reflects your soul, your style, your peace. There's no one dictating what you should wear, how late you should stay up, what career choices you should pursue, or who you should be. Independence gives you the freedom to know yourself, and once you know yourself deeply, you can never again be shaken by the shallow approval of others. A woman who lives alone without a boyfriend isn't missing out. She's gaining space to discover what truly matters. She doesn't have to apologize for her priorities. She doesn't have to explain her dreams, and she doesn't have to dilute her ambitions. She can sit in silence without feeling the need to fill it. She can laugh at her own jokes. She can plan her own future without waiting for someone else's permission. That kind of independence isn't weakness. It's power disguised as solitude. Now, let's be real. Independence doesn't mean life is always easy. There are nights when the silence feels heavy, mornings when you wish someone was there to share the coffee with, moments when society tries to remind you that you're somehow behind, because you're not following the traditional script. But here's the beauty. In those very moments, you are learning resilience. You are proving to yourself that your joy is not dependent on another person showing up. You are proving that your worth isn't up for negotiation. And that kind of strength, that kind of unshakable confidence, is the kind that will carry you through every season of your life. Independence teaches responsibility too. When you live alone, you take care of your own bills, your own safety, your own mental health, your own daily choices. And every time you do, you remind yourself, I am capable, I am strong, I am enough. That doesn't mean you'll never want companionship or that love is irrelevant. It simply means you refuse to settle for less than you deserve just to avoid being alone. That is courage, that is wisdom, that is power. Society will always have its opinions. Some people will see a woman living alone as incomplete, while others will admire her strength but secretly pity her. None of that matters, because independence isn't lived for applause. It's lived for freedom. It's lived for peace of mind. It's lived for the quiet confidence of knowing you can stand on your own without crumbling. Because when you know how to stand alone, you will never again be afraid of falling. So if you've ever been told that living alone is something to be ashamed of, let me remind you, independence is not isolation, it is liberation. It is proof that you have chosen to write your own story in your own voice, on your own terms. You are not waiting to be saved. You are not waiting for validation. You are not waiting for life to begin. You are already living it. You are already enough. And that is power. The first and most important relationship any of us will ever have is the one we have with ourselves. You can change jobs, change cities, change the people you surround yourself with, but you cannot escape the person you wake up with every morning, yourself. And yet, so many people skip this step. They run to fill the silence with a partner, with attention, with approval, because they've never learned how to sit quietly and love the person staring back at them in the mirror. Living alone without a boyfriend strips away the noise. It gives you the raw, unfiltered space to look inward, to ask yourself, do I love me? Do I respect me? Do I like the person I am becoming? And those are not easy questions because they force honesty. But the moment you start answering them truthfully, something powerful happens. You begin building the kind of self-love that can never be taken away. Self-love isn't about bubble baths or spa days, although those are nice. It's about deeper things, boundaries, discipline, self-respect. It's about saying no to what drains you, yes to what builds you, and refusing to shrink yourself just so someone else feels comfortable. It's about knowing your value so well that you will not bargain it away for half-hearted love or shallow validation. And when a woman lives alone, she gets the chance to practice that every single day. There's a certain strength that comes when you don't depend on a partner to remind you that you're worthy. You start to believe it yourself. You stop searching for someone to complete you because you recognize you were never incomplete. The late night doubts quiet down because you've learned to comfort yourself. The insecurities fade because you've built confidence through action, through proving to yourself that you can handle life one step at a time. Now, people sometimes mistake self-love for selfishness. They think loving yourself means you're pushing others away or that you're building walls too high for anyone to climb. But that's not true. Loving yourself doesn't mean you can't love someone else. It simply means that when love does come along, you'll love from a place of fullness, not desperation. You'll choose companionship, not dependency. You'll choose a relationship because it adds to your life, not because it fills an empty space. And here's the truth. If you don't know how to love yourself, you will always look to others to do it for you. You'll depend on their words to feel beautiful, their presence to feel valuable, their approval to feel enough. That is a dangerous way to live because the moment they leave, you crumble. But when you've built self-love from the inside out, no one can take it from you. It's yours. It's rooted. It's unshakable. Living alone teaches you that. It teaches you how to sit with your own company and not only tolerate it, but enjoy it. It teaches you how to look in the mirror and not just notice flaws, but see growth. It teaches you how to celebrate your own wins, how to speak kindly to yourself, how to carry yourself with dignity even when nobody else is watching. That is the foundation of every healthy relationship. Not what someone else can give you, but what you've already given yourself. Because when you know your worth, you stop chasing people who don't value it. When you love yourself, you stop begging others for love. When you respect yourself, you stop allowing others to disrespect you. And the incredible part is, once you've built that inner relationship, every external relationship in your life gets better. Friends, family, even future partners, they all benefit from the work you've done within. So if you're living alone right now, if you don't have a boyfriend, if you feel like maybe you're missing something, let me remind you, the only thing you're missing is the opportunity to turn inward and discover the most important relationship of your life. And once you nurture that relationship, once you build that foundation of self-love, you'll never again look outside of yourself for proof that you are enough. You'll already know it. You'll already feel it. You'll already be living it. And that knowledge, that unshakable love for yourself, will be the most powerful thing you'll ever carry. One of the most overlooked gifts of living alone without a boyfriend is the freedom it gives you to create, to dream, and to explore without limits. Think about how much of life is often shaped by the expectations of others. What will people think? What does my partner want? What should I compromise? But when you live alone, when you're not wrapped in the constant pressure of meeting someone else's needs, you suddenly step into this wide, open space where possibility lives. That's the kind of freedom many people never get to experience, and if you're in that season, it's not something to take lightly. It's something to embrace. There's a certain energy that comes with being free to make your own choices. You don't have to explain why you're chasing a dream that seems too big for others to understand. You don't have to tone down your ambition because someone might feel threatened by it. You don't have to apologize for wanting more out of life. You get to dream loudly, unapologetically, without editing yourself to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. That's powerful. That's rare. This kind of freedom isn't just about careers or goals. It's about exploration of the self. It's about discovering hobbies you didn't even know you loved, trying new things without fear of judgment, and traveling roads you never thought you'd have the courage to take. It's about finding out what truly lights you up when there's no one else steering the wheel. Maybe that means late night writing sessions. Maybe it means signing up for classes you've always been curious about. Maybe it means exploring the world. Or maybe it simply means sitting in silence and finding peace in your own company. Whatever it looks like, that freedom is sacred. Now, I know what some people might say. They'll call freedom selfish, or they'll suggest that exploration is just wandering without purpose. But here's the truth. The only way to know your purpose is to give yourself the room to explore it. You cannot discover who you are if you're constantly living under someone else's shadow. You cannot chase your calling if your energy is being drained by a relationship that keeps you small. Sometimes solitude isn't loneliness, it's preparation. It's the stage where you get to experiment, grow, fail, and rise again. And nobody gets hurt in the process but you, and even then, you learn from it. This is the season where you figure out what kind of life you actually want to build. Do you want to live quietly or boldly? Do you want a life full of risk or one rooted in stability? Do you want to invest in art, in business, in travel, in service? These answers don't come when you're distracted by trying to hold someone else together. They come when you're free to sit with your own heart, when you're free to listen to that inner voice that's been drowned out by noise for far too long. And here's something important. Freedom also means failure, and that's okay. When you live alone, you get to fail on your own terms. You can take risks without being judged for them. You can stumble, you can fall, you can start over, and you don't have to answer to anyone but yourself. That kind of freedom is terrifying at first, but it's also the birthplace of resilience. Because every time you fall, you rise stronger. Every time you get lost, you discover more of yourself. Every time you take a step into the unknown, you prove to yourself that courage lives inside you. So instead of looking at your life and thinking about what you lack, a boyfriend, a partner, a hand to hold, look at what you've been given. You've been given the rare, beautiful chance to dream without restriction, to create without judgment, to explore without limits. And in doing so, you're not just filling time, you're building a foundation. You're creating a version of yourself so strong, so vibrant, so alive, that when the right person does come along, you'll never lose yourself in them. You'll be ready to share your life, not surrender it. Because the freedom you have right now isn't just about enjoying the present. It's about preparing for the future. It's about shaping a life that reflects who you truly are, not who someone else wants you to be. And that, right there, is the kind of freedom that turns dreams into reality. So don't run from it. Don't waste it. Don't let the world convince you that freedom is emptiness. This is your time to create, your time to dream, your time to explore. And the life you build in this freedom will be the life that carries you forward, no matter who walks in or out of your story. One of the hardest parts about living alone, without a boyfriend, isn't the silence or the solitude. It's the weight of other people's opinions. Society has this way of putting labels on women, as if your worth can be summed up by your relationship status. You've probably heard the whispers, "Why is she still single? What's wrong with her? She must be too picky." It's as though happiness and success have been reduced to whether or not you're standing next to someone in a picture. And that kind of thinking is not just outdated, it's damaging. Because here's the truth: your value doesn't come from being chosen by someone else. It doesn't come from proving you're lovable by having a boyfriend. It doesn't come from ticking boxes on some timeline society created generations ago. Your value was built into you long before you had a title, before you had a ring, before you had anyone to validate you. The idea that you are incomplete without a relationship is a lie that has been told so many times, people mistake it for truth. But it isn't truth. It's a story designed to keep women small, dependent, and doubting themselves. Living alone, choosing to stand without a boyfriend, is not a weakness. It's a challenge to that narrative. It's proof that you're strong enough to step outside of the box the world wants to put you in. And yes, people may not understand it. They may try to tell you that you're missing out, that you should settle, that you'll regret it one day. But that's because they don't understand what it feels like to build a life on your own terms. They've bought into a story that says validation comes from outside, and you've chosen to write a different one. One that says fulfillment comes from within. When you break society's labels, you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for every woman who watches you and realizes she doesn't have to settle either. You're doing it for the younger generation that deserves to know they are more than someone's girlfriend, someone's wife, someone's plus one. You're showing them that identity isn't borrowed from someone else's presence. Identity is claimed, owned, and lived by you alone. And here's the thing, breaking these labels isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it's lonely. Sometimes it feels like you're swimming against the current, while everyone else seems content to drift. But every step you take in refusing to let society define you, you are gaining strength. You are proving to yourself that you can stand tall without approval. And when you can do that, when you can face the disapproval, the judgment, the questioning looks, and still know who you are, that's when you become unshakable. There will always be people who measure life in milestones. The ring, the wedding, the kids, the house. And there's nothing wrong with those milestones, but they are not the only story worth living. The truth is, the timeline society hands you is not the only path. There are 1,000 different ways to build a meaningful life. For some, that path includes a boyfriend. For others, it doesn't. But neither path is superior. Neither path defines your worth. What defines your worth is the courage to live honestly, authentically, and unapologetically, no matter what people think. Breaking free from labels means choosing not to let the world dictate when you're supposed to be happy. It means refusing to believe that love from someone else is the only version of love that matters. It means deciding that your success, your peace, your fulfillment can stand alone, strong and beautiful, even without the approval of a crowd. So the next time someone asks you why you live alone, why you don't have a boyfriend, why you're not following the script, don't shrink back. Stand taller. Because your life doesn't need to be justified, explained, or excused. You're not breaking rules. You're breaking chains. You're rewriting the story for yourself and for every woman watching, and that is something society can't label, can't box in, and can't take away. You are not behind. You are not less. You are not incomplete. You are free. And freedom will always be more valuable than approval. When people hear the word solitude, they often think of emptiness. They imagine silence so loud it feels heavy, or rooms so quiet they feel suffocating. But solitude, when you choose it, is not a weakness. It's not a punishment. It's strength in its purest form. And that strength doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it's quiet, steady, and calm, like a steady heartbeat reminding you that you can carry yourself through anything. Living alone without a boyfriend doesn't mean you're cut off from love or connection. It means you've chosen to stand in the kind of space that teaches you resilience. Because when you're by yourself, you face the things most people try to run from. You face the silence. You face the questions. You face the fears that come when nobody else is there to distract you. And while that might sound intimidating, it's actually the soil where real strength grows. Think about it when you go through a hard day and no one's there to pick you up, you learn how to lift yourself. When you go through a night of loneliness and no one's there to fill the void, you learn how to comfort your own soul. When life throws challenges at you and you can't lean on a partner to solve them, you figure out how to problem solve on your own. That's not weakness. That's power. That's the kind of training ground that makes you unstoppable. Most people are afraid of solitude because they think it means being unloved. But solitude is not the absence of love. It's the presence of self-discovery. It's the chance to build a backbone instead of just borrowing someone else's. It's the opportunity to prove to yourself, day after day, that you are capable of carrying your own weight. And once you learn how to carry yourself, you walk differently, you talk differently, you hold yourself differently. Because you know that even if the world falls apart around you, you will not fall apart with it. There's a quiet kind of confidence that comes from living alone. You start to trust yourself more deeply. You start to recognize your own patterns, your own strengths, your own weaknesses. You begin to realize that solitude doesn't expose you. It builds you. It creates a foundation so strong that when relationships do come, you don't cling out of fear. You choose out of strength. You don't need someone to complete you. You want someone who adds to the life you've already built. That shift changes everything. And let's be honest, solitude isn't always easy. There will be moments when you long for someone to share your victories with, someone to sit with on the hard nights, someone to remind you that you're not walking alone. Those feelings are real and they're human. But here's the difference. Solitude teaches you how to face those feelings without collapsing under them. It teaches you that yes, connection matters, but your survival doesn't depend on someone else being in the room. You can feel the ache of loneliness and still keep moving forward. You can face the silence and still create music within it. You can walk through seasons of being alone and still live fully, vibrantly, and meaningfully. Strength in solitude isn't about rejecting people. It's not about closing yourself off. It's about learning how to stand so firmly in your own skin that you stop being afraid of the quiet. You stop being afraid of your own thoughts. You stop being afraid of what happens if nobody shows up, because you've already shown up for yourself. That kind of strength doesn't just carry you through single seasons. It carries you through life. So the next time you find yourself sitting in the stillness of your own company, don't see it as emptiness. See it as proof. Proof that you are strong enough to stand without crutches. Proof that you are resilient enough to survive without applause. Proof that you are grounded enough to thrive without constant reassurance. That is not loneliness. That is power. And once you've learned to find strength in solitude, there's nothing in this world that can break you. Because the person who knows how to stand alone is the person who will always know how to stand strong. At the end of the day, every choice we make comes down to one question: what does happiness mean to me? Not to my parents, not to my friends, not to society, but to me. And when a woman lives alone without a boyfriend, she has the rare opportunity to answer that question honestly, without pressure, without compromise, without pretending. She gets to step back, strip away the noise, and decide what happiness really looks like on her own terms. Too often, people confuse happiness with formulas. They think it's a checklist: meet someone, fall in love, get married, buy the house, have the kids, post the pictures online. And while none of those things are bad, they are not the definition of happiness. They are only one version of it. Happiness is not about fitting into a mold. It's about alignment. It's about making sure your life reflects your values, your dreams, your truth. When you live alone, you begin to see that clearly. You're not molding yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You're not bending your life to accommodate someone else's idea of success. You're free to ask yourself, what makes me come alive? What kind of life feels good in my bones? What kind of peace am I chasing? And when you build from those answers, happiness becomes less about outside circumstances and more about an inside state of being. And that's where the shift happens. Because once you understand happiness is not something handed to you by a partner, but something you cultivate within yourself, You stop chasing after what the world says you should want. You stop settling for relationships that look good on the outside, but feel empty on the inside. You stop giving away your joy just to fit in. Instead, you start building a life that is rich with meaning, with authenticity, with fulfillment. Living alone teaches you that happiness is found in the small things, the morning rituals that ground you, the freedom to pursue passions without apology, the peace of knowing you are living a life that is true to you. It's the joy of reading in silence, the pride of paying your own bills, the courage of following a dream without needing approval. It's realizing that happiness is not delayed until someone else arrives. It's here. It's now. It's in the way you choose to live every single day. That doesn't mean you'll never want companionship. It doesn't mean relationships don't matter. Of course they do. Humans are wired for connection. But when your happiness is built on your own terms, you approach relationships differently. You don't enter them out of fear of being alone. You enter them out of abundance. You don't cling to someone because you need them to define you. You walk beside them because they add to a life you've already defined. That's the beauty of building happiness from within. It makes love freer, purer, healthier. Because it's not about filling a void, it's about sharing a fullness. And here's what's powerful: once you redefine happiness for yourself, the world loses its grip on you. The questions, the judgments, the comparisons, they no longer hold weight. Because you know what you're building, you know what brings you peace. You know that your life doesn't have to look like anyone else's to be meaningful. Happiness is not one size fits all. It's custom made. And the moment you accept that, you stop apologizing for living differently. You stop explaining yourself to people who will never understand. You start standing taller, smiling wider, walking lighter, because you've found your own version of joy. So if you're living alone, without a boyfriend, without the picture-perfect life the world expects, let me tell you something: you are not behind, you are not less, and you are not incomplete. You are exactly where you need to be to create a life that is yours, fully and unapologetically. Your happiness is not waiting in the arms of someone else. It is waiting in the choices you make today, in the courage you show tomorrow, and in the freedom you refuse to give up. Because true happiness isn't about who you're with. It's about who you are when you stand alone. And when you find joy in that, you've already won.